I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Village Council of Corrales to order. Please turn your phones off or set them on vibrate. Please, if you want to talk to your neighbor, go outside and talk to your neighbor and don't disturb the speakers or what's going on in the meeting at the time. If you have comments to make to the council, please be civil. That wasn't meant to be funny. Okay, once you've done your phones, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilor Miera.
Aquí.
Councilor Wallman.
Here.
Councilor Knight.
Here.
Councilor Alsobrook.
Here.
Councilor Burkett.
Here.
Councilor Murray.
Here.
Okay, all the governing body is present. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second. I have a second. All in favor signify by saying, oh, I have one change. Before, may have to modify that motion. Tracy Hartzler is not going to come and do a presentation regarding the CNM general obligation bonds. So that's the only change. Is that going to modify your motion in any way? Whoever made it?
No.
Nope. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So tonight we have some celebrities from the Sandia Pueblo who are going to make a presentation, as well as representatives who are running for office, Audrey Trujillo, and we have our county commissioner. Oh, there she's outside. Okay. Catherine Brooke. Okay. Okay, so at this time, Governor, if you would like to speak, we're ready. Could you please state your name yourself for the tape that's being made right now?
My name is Felix Chavez. I'm the governor from the Pueblo Sandia. And I'd like to start off with a little prayer that we customarily do in our own tribal council.
Would you like for us to stand?
You can be seated. I'm just gonna say it real quick. Tuwiniko ma bimbi ke coalition with Nusa Nusa said, but when you then come in the village of Corrales, Haiti. Hey, I own a coming away and coming away. Sent commute come on some people carry coalition. Well, you the type of way to with the way the tente staff members from the Pueblo Sandia Legal Counsel and Environment Director. Village of Corrales City Council, where come him I. I'm asking your permission to speak before you. So I'll go ahead and get started.
Yes, sir. And thank you.
Again, we're here this evening to present on behalf of Pueblo Sandia. This is a issue that's related to the village of Corrales, to the Pueblo Sandia, and many farmers in the area. And I'm speaking about the Corrales Siphon Project. So I want to start off by saying that we're here to build government to government relations. Again, we don't necessarily have to speak to the farmers in your community, but out of respect to the village of Corrales, the mayor in your city council, we're here to present our position this evening. So I'll go ahead and get started. Again, everybody knows that this issue has been going on for many years. I mean, we historically, you know, the siphon has been in there, and it's been well over 10 years, and everybody knows that the Corrales siphon was placed back in the 1930s. Long time ago. And over a period of time, it deteriorates. It needs to be fixed. And You know, we're making that effort to work with the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District in order to get this issue resolved. So I'm gonna go ahead and start and go through the historical record of what we have on our records. In late fall of 2023, the Pueblo Sandia requested that the Bureau of Indian Affairs review whether Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District held any right of way for the Corrales siphon. That was late fall last year. And the way that this whole issue develops is that on the Pueblo side, along our western boundary of the river, there was a sinkhole that started to develop. The water started rolling back towards Pueblo lands, and that's how we found out about it. And at that time, we had people from Pueblo, from the Pueblo government have the different departments like lands, environment, and other people associated with that project take a look at it to see what was going on, to see what we could find out. So at that time, that's how it started to happen. Rolling forward into January of 24, the Pueblo Sandia Tribal Council held discussions with the BIA superintendent regarding non-communication with tribal leadership. At that time, we were having a lot of difficulty trying to communicate with the Bureau of Indian Affairs because we recognize that this is an issue that needed immediate attention on both sides of the river. You know, we're not the only ones that are impacted. The village of Corrales has a stake in this too, because they need the water to irrigate their lands. At that time too, MRDC CEO requested permission to conduct geotechnical borings and acknowledges that construction activities be placed on hold in order to address the issue that was forthcoming. So we have allowed MRGDC to do the test drilling and boring on the Pueblo side of the river so that we could get a better understanding of what lies underneath the river. Because we don't want to get into a situation where if we start construction, we start running into areas where that might not be discovered at that time. So the testing has been completed. Along the same lines, MRDDC has pretty much completed their planning and design work. They're probably sitting at 90% at this point. So work has been progressing throughout this year. Moving forward, September of this year, BIA determines that there is no federally approved right-of-way for the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District. Construction and operations on Pueblo lands come to cease. So we're at the point right now where we were waiting for BIA to get us the information on both sides. MRDDC was waiting for determination from BIA, likewise with the Pueblo Sandia. The Pueblo Sandia takes the position that we have to follow the federal process. We still have that government to government relationship with the federal government. And again, at that time, we wrote to our congressional legislative group. So we sent letters to Congresswoman Melanie Stansberry, to Heinrich, to Ben Ray Lujan, and likewise to Fernandez up north. So we engaged with our congressional district representatives to help get BIA to bring us that determination because both parties are waiting. So just recently, like yesterday, I received a call from Ben Ray Lujan's office and asking us if we needed any more assistance with BIA. And at that time, I told them that we're going to wait and see how, the determination comes out, because we still got to do our legwork with the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Again, these are the people that we have to deal with on our side of the thing. So, the legislative group from state of New Mexico, they're there to help and assist. And we reached out to them. Because again, with BIA, it's been a long process. Nobody's been able to get no answers out of them. We basically had to twist their arm to get answers from them, but we're there. We just recently met with them like about a week and a half ago. They came and presented their findings to the Pueblo of Sandia Tribal Council, was present at that time. Likewise with the rest of the leadership here, and some of our directors from our tribal government were present at the same time. So, going forward, what are the next steps? Out of that determination from BIA, the Pueblo Sandia, the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District are to engage in discussions to secure a right-of-way for the Corrales siphon in order to continue with the project. So I just want to make sure that the village of Corrales understands that we are now going to engage with MRGDC. We have plans to bring them to the Pueblo of Sandia so that they can state their position before our tribal council. We need to know what they're thinking, how they're going to work with us or not. I don't know. Again, we circle back. This issue has been ongoing for many years. There's been many attempts to fix the siphon. And it's the responsibility of the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District to provide the water to the village of Corrales. It's not the responsibility of the Pueblo of Sandia, nor BIA. I just want to make sure that we have that understanding and that it's clear in your minds that we're here to state our position, but also to build government to government relationships, because we're all in this together. We depend on the water. I'm a farmer. I've been farming for more than 30 years. I grew up in the valley. And I'm the person that wrote the letter to the editor for the Corrales comment, stating our position at that time and the troubles and difficulties that we were having. Mayor Fair.
Governor, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I do have a question as to how they could not have a right of way for the 90 years that siphon's been there. I see a nod. You can agree. I mean, how does that happen?
Well, that was our question too. You would think that in order to get the project underway and completed, that all the research and the studies had to be conducted. But something was overlooked.
Yeah.
That one issue was the right of way.
And the other question I had was, the first you were aware of it was the end of 23? The
Pueblo was aware of it in
the Pueblo was
2023.
aware of the problem?
The previous administration was well aware of it,
Oh,
and they were
okay.
working on it.
Okay.
I'm the newly appointed governor for this year.
Was that Nathan Garcia?
No, former Governor Stuart Paisano.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So he was the one in charge at that time.
Understand.
And again, that occurred during the latter part of his administration. So time was growing short at that point. And now we're pretty much at the same point in time that he was in. But it's taken a long time.
Yeah.
To get answers from the federal authorities.
Sometimes you just have to find the right person and ask the right question.
Yep.
But a lot of letters have been sent from farmers,
Yeah.
from administration, from legislators to try to get some kind of, get something moving. And I guess we have, because you're now in contact with BIA.
Yes, we made contact with them. We've heard their preliminary findings, and now the work begins. And that, those discussions will be held with the Pueblo Sandia and the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District.
Okay.
So going forward, it'll be government to government discussions and relationships.
Yeah.
When we're here to present our side, we're
Right.
not the enemy. We're just like you. We're trying to preserve our community. You here in the city of Corrales, you have a long history in the agricultural areas. I know from many years ago, as a child growing up and learning how to farm with my father, that the city of Corrales has always been here. They relied on the water. We have to rely on those conveyance systems that the MRGDC has. And it goes through many, many miles of Pueblo lands, not only the Pueblo Sandia, but it starts up by Cochiti and ends way down in the Pueblo of Isleta, our brothers and sisters to the south.
Does anyone else have, Councilwoman?
Thank you, Mayor. Governor, this is a replacement for a siphon that has failed. I think your next to last slide indicated that BIA has now authorized the Pueblo of Sandia to negotiate with MRGCD to determine a right of way. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
So the BIA in effect has stepped back for the two parties to try to work it out.
For the time being, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because at some point we might have to turn to them for legal advice.
Mhm.
Again, they're the group of authorities that we have to deal with. Likewise with MRGDC, I'm sure they have to turn to the state for direction
Right.
and guidance.
Thank you.
Stuart?
Thank you, Mayor. Governor, welcome. Also, I was just curious about, what do you think the impact on Pueblo land is going to be if you grant MRGCD the ability to do this replacement? Is that going to impact your farming or any of your activities that you might have?
Well, it just depends when the right of way is provided to MRGDC. It could be anytime during the growing season, or it could be like now when the irrigation season is ending, or it could be right in the middle of irrigation system, like during the summer months.
Do you, I guess my question is, how much right of way are we talking about? I mean, we're not talking the full length of the Pueblo, but it's just a narrow portion for construction.
I believe the estimates are total of 60 feet from the center line.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Councilor Burkett?
Governor, appreciate you and the rest of your leadership being here with us today. Do you have any sense of a timeline? Has the meeting with MRGCD been scheduled already? And I mean, I think we all know MRGCD's intention is to get water back into the village. Their intention is hopefully to find a way to meet whatever needs you guys have to grant that right away. But I'm curious, you said that you're a farmer and the government to government stuff is important, but if you're speaking to our farmers, what would be your overall message as far as the Pueblo's thought process on what these negotiations look like for a right of way?
Well, in regard to the timeline, it could be quick or it could be quite lengthy, causing more delays. But again, those negotiations have to take place between the Pueblo Sandia and MRGDC. But to address your farmers, we're there for you. I mean, we've been good stewards of the land for many, many years, decades, centuries. So we have a thorough understanding of your needs. I know that there's a lot of people here in this community that still farm, whatever crops they grow. It might be chili, it might be alfalfa or other products. but it's still the same. We all depend on the water to grow produce and to make a living off of it.
Yes, sir, Councilman Muir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, Governor, thank you so much for coming tonight and speaking with us. We appreciate that immensely. I have an older question that you mentioned that in the thirties, we got into the siphon situation in its beginning. Was it not a right-of-way declared from the very beginning in the thirties? Or did the right-of-way situation come in between, or now just towards the very end that we've decided we didn't have the right-of-way? We would have thought we would have had that or some workings since the thirties.
You know, I wasn't around in 1930, so I couldn't really say or testify to that, what documents were produced at that time. But in the here and now, it's been determined by the BIA that there are no records that provide a right of way to the existing structure that's underneath the river. And it circles back to that question about how come we didn't know? You would think that MRGDC would do its best to make sure that the research was done, that the right of ways existed, and in order to go get the funding from the state and complete the project, something was overlooked somewhere. And we're not responsible for that. We're, you know, we're working on it, and we look to try to resolve this issue in the near future. So.
Thank you, Governor.
Councilman Woolman.
Thank you, Governor. Does the tribal council or you as governor have in mind what it might take to get to a point where you can establish a right of way? In other words, is there a negotiating position that you have currently, or is that something that still has to be researched?
Well, we need to, as tribal leaders, we need to meet with our tribal council and inform them. And I'm going to do that tomorrow morning because we have our tribal council meeting in the morning, and we're going to report back on our activities here in the village of Corrales with Mayor Fair and the city council. But it's up to tribal council to determine what is needed. Because again, you know, there's some very important issues that might have been overlooked historically. I mean, I can't account for that. But our tribal council has been pretty conservative with regard to how they make their decisions. And they rightly do so the best way that they can with available information that they have at their disposal.
Councilman Burkett, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Just a point of clarity, and maybe this is clear to everyone other than me, but it is the right of way that we are discussing that wasn't in place for just the siphon crossing the river, or does it involve any of the ditch work on the east side of the river as well?
It's just for the siphon.
Just for crossing under the river.
Yes.
So it's a short section that was well, short compared to the overall section that's in question right now.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I will say, I mean, just as a personal comment, I'm happy that we have a farmer that understands the importance of water, and not to put any undue pressure on you, but I mean, you would understand this problem. You would understand the effect that it has on our citizens much more than someone who did not have that experience. So I take some
Yeah.
comfort in that.
Yeah. Well, again, you know, that's the way I grew up. Farmed with my father. We constantly were out there working. And we even came to the village of Corrales. And the teachings that I received from him, you know, we drove the whole length of the Corrales main that dumps back into the river further down the way here. The city of Los Ranchos down that way. Somewhere in there, it dumps back into the river. But again, you know, I do understand that. I understand the economic impact that it has for our tribal members who farm, and also for the village of Corrales, because a lot, you know, again, We're an agricultural-based society. On the east side of the river, likewise on the west side of the river.
Governor, thank you very much. And your entire leadership group, thank you very much for coming. Really appreciated this. Is there
Okay.
anything else we can do to, I don't know, to grease the skids, so to speak, or help out?
Well,
I'm talking to Jason a little bit tomorrow, Jason Kasuga.
yeah. We just ask that you be patient with us. It's been a lengthy process. We still might encounter road bumps along the way, but we're still working towards the end of trying to get the project completed.
Well, given that they lost or didn't get a right of way and didn't know that they didn't have a right of way, I would also be concerned about what other things fell through the cracks.
That's
You
correct.
know, be sure we have all the i's dotted and t's crossed before, you know, we say, okay, everything is taken
Yeah.
care of.
And like the city council here in the village of Corrales, our tribal council members are, many of them are elderly men. And they have a good long history.
I saw you
And,
do it when you said that.
they remember a lot of these things.
I don't think he was talking about you.
That's where I pull down the average.
Okay, Mayor Failer,
Well, thank you very
Thank you
much.
for-
Thank all you guys for coming.
letting us present this evening, and I hope you all have a good evening.
Thank you,
Thank you.
sir. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay. Now we'll move on to Barbara Bayer and Lisa Eisenberger, who are going to talk about Four Paws Pet Food Bank. You want to talk together or in sequence or one at a time? Oh, okay.
And my name is Barbara Bear. I'm from 91 Ida Court here in Corrales. So let me just say for anyone who doesn't know who Karma is, we're a 501c3 all volunteer nonprofit animal rescue group. We began here in Corrales. I was going to start out also by saying that October is a big month for us because 23 years ago in October, we got our 501c3. 24 years ago in October, we became incorporated. And 25 years ago, we began the first conversations about how we needed to set up a no-kill animal rescue here in Corrales. So for some time, we have been concerned about the number of unwanted animals that are finding their ways into rescue groups and into the shelters. We all know that spay and neuter is a big interest. I can't get it down. We all know that spay and neuter is a major concern and a way in which we can reduce the supply of animals in our communities. But there are other parts of that supply side that we have become concerned about. And that is the number of individuals who are relinquishing their animals because they cannot feed them. So this, I'll give you an example. I just spoke with our animal control officer this afternoon. She was contacted by a family that has 7 dogs. And one of the people lost their job. So they don't have the money to feed these animals. So what do? They generally, without any other options, they would have to give these animals up. So we're aware of this. And in 2018, because of our concern about this and the kinds of stories that were coming to us, we wrote a grant, we wrote a proposal and received a grant from the Dennis Friends Foundation to develop the Four Paws Food Bank, Pet Food Bank. We were fortunate that Corrales Kennel provided us a space for the food bank. And Dan and his staff have continued to be actively involved in helping with the food bank. So they assist us in unloading the van when we have large numbers of, large pallets of food. And because we have to keep the food bank locked, his staff also help us by letting people who need food into the food bank, which enables us to now have access to our food bank 5 days a week. And that is further helpful to us because we don't have to have paid staff do this. That's already part of their volunteer opportunity or offerings to us. So the pet food donations come from many sources, as the summary that you saw and are looking at probably shows. One of the largest sources is the international charity Greater Good. That comes to Moriarty through Res Dog Rescue, and we are partners in that program. So for example, in order for us to keep the food bag stocked, we go to Moriarty when the food is delivered, which is, by the way, not all the time. And we pay $250 for a pallet of food. That probably contains about 50 bags of food. What we just did recently is which is like $5 a bag, right? So the retail cost of the food that we just recently got would have been $72 a bag. That would have cost on the open retail market $3,600. We got it for $250. 4 pallets have filled our food bank, and I think she passed around some pictures. So those pallets have filled the food bank. That'll probably last a few weeks. That value, so for $1,000, we basically receive $14,000 in value. Financial donations are really critical to us, and we're always struggling to find donors. Not only do donations pay for the cost of the shipments to Greater Good, but when the shipments aren't there and the food bank is empty, we go out and buy at retail cost. So that is an important source for us to have financial donors. I'm very happy to report, we just signed an MOU with Sandoval County, and we'll be getting $6,000 from Commissioner Brook to use for the food bank. Also, the pet food bank provides food for people throughout the area, but principally we are providing food for Sandoval County. And that is the largest consumer of our food. And Corrales is the largest zip code that consumes food. And next is Rio Rancho. I also want to point out that pet food donations from companies like PetSmart, Petco, PetSense, Target, all of these show that there's a huge commitment and recognition for the need of food in this community. Lisa.
My name is Lisa Eisenberger, and I've been a Corrales resident since 1991. I live at 78 Dulce Court. As Barbara explained, Karma established the food bank in 2018 for 2 main reasons. One is because Karma, as an animal rescue, is very interested in keeping animals that are already owned in their homes and out of shelters. But a second reason is that we know it's good for the people who have the animals. There's a growing body of research that tells us all the benefits that come with having pet ownership. It alleviates loneliness. It teaches responsibility. It promotes compassion. It eases anxiety. And probably most importantly, it provides unconditional love and acceptance. When I was first involved with the Four Paws Pet Food Bank in December of 2022, we weren't keeping track very closely of where the food was coming from and where it was going, but we knew we were serving about 20 families a month, and we were going through about 800 pounds of food, which seems like a lot, but based on the number of animals in a family, it worked out to be about 15 to 20 pounds per animal per month. So it's a very reasonable amount for 20 families. But we knew that there were more families in the area that needed help because we see a lot of people abandoning and giving up their animals. So we spent a good amount of time trying to grow both sides of the equation, the supply side, which is getting donors to donate food or money, but also to try to get the food in the hands of the people who needed it most. So we were handing out flyers and making them available at places like a senior center or a human food pantry. We also had informational tables at Viva Corrales and the Harvest Festival. About a year later, after trying to market, I guess, what was happening with the food bank, we found ourselves distributing on average about 3,500 pounds of food a month and regularly helping about 75 families in feeding their dogs and cats. So it tripled in about a year. So we stopped trying to actively grow the number of clients, but the need in the community has continued to grow at an alarming rate. And it is now pretty much double that. In this summer, we've been helping 150 families a month consistently. We're giving out about 5,500 pounds of pet food each month. And while we don't require proof of income, we know that our clients learned about our food bank when they get food for themselves at the food pantry or at the senior center. But because we keep track of zip codes, we also know, as Barbara said, the largest zip code we're helping is Corrales, which means we're helping 35 to 40 families in Corrales. And then the largest county is Sandoval County, but we also help people in other areas in the greater Albuquerque area. I always say that the increase we've seen is both exciting and terrifying. It's exciting because we know we're making a difference. We're able to help the people who need help. We're able to keep those animals in their homes. But it's terrifying because we don't have a stable, consistent source of pet food to keep up with the demand that we have. What you saw on the handout that gave you is a photo that was actually, the top photo was taken on Wednesday, empty shelves. And that was last week. And then again on Saturday, after we had replenished it with food from Greater Good Charities. Sadly, we don't have access to Greater Good Charities food as often as we would like. It's there when it's there. Purina had done a large donation and we are able to get it at transportation cost. But the food that's available there happens maybe once every 2 or 3 months. But a lot of times people ask me why we struggle so much to keep the shelves full. And it's, of course, it's lack of resources. Most of the food we get comes in as a donation. And while we do have great sources like Greater Goods and other community partners, the pet food's only available when the pet food is available. So we are also able to purchase food at a discount at one of the local stores, PetSmart in Enchanted Hills, but their supply is also limited. They don't have an unlimited supply to give us at a discount. So overall, I guess what I'm trying to help you understand that there's a resource in the village of Corrales that's helping a large number of families in keeping their pets, and it's keeping the pets out of the shelters, which are already overcrowded. We know it's better for the animals. We also know it's better for the people. That's all I think I have to say. Are there questions?
Any questions? Yes, Councilor Knight.
Thank you for coming tonight. I was wondering, when you provide the pet food, do you talk to the people about spay and neutering their animals?
We don't put a requirement on it. I'll let
Yeah,
Barbara speak to it.
I really want to speak to that because initially, when we started out with this, it was my hope that we could do just that. We could also assess when people needed vaccines, that we could really be a source for getting people the kind of care that they needed for their animals. We are in a situation now with vets that they don't have any spay neuter appointments. And so it's really hard to make a lot of those contacts because we can't access the care. There's very little low-cost spay neuter around. So we haven't been doing that, but I would like that to happen, not just for spay neuter, but for the full health of the animal. We haven't done it.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Murray?
Thank you. So when you're talking about food for animals, is it mostly dogs or does this include cats as well?
It's It's dogs and cats. It's mostly dogs. We go through way more dog food than cat food, but we help out animals with cats as well. Cats don't eat as much, so when we have a large amount of cat food, it lasts a lot longer, but the dog food goes pretty fast. So there's a lot of dog owners in the area, but it's both.
Okay. Thank you. Anyway, I was trying to think of something else, but nothing's coming to mind right now.
Okay.
I'm old, as Counselor Burkett points out.
I hadn't noticed.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Did you want to, Bill, do you want to make any comments or ask any questions?
The dedication that Lisa and Barbara have given to this is just amazing. I happen to be the one that drives the van and goes out and we have 2.5 pallets sitting in the van that'll be put in the food bank tomorrow and probably go out again on Friday to get some more. But as Lisa said, it's inconsistent. And one of the things that Commissioner Brook has kindly put forward is, you know, the money would be available to purchase it's not free food. It's food. We have to pay for the transportation costs and things, but it's almost free food. And it is just a tremendous benefit. And I know that Mr. Curry is familiar with the Greater Good Charities out of Chicago, and they do this nationwide, and they do it for any number of health-related issues and issues involving children, and this is one of their main things is pet food supply, and I mentioned to Barbara the other night. It's extremely gratifying, you know, to see people come in, and they don't know where to go, they don't know where to turn, they love their animals, and this is a service that is making them feel good. And it's extremely gratifying. So any questions I have, I'll pepper with her later, but I think we're good. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you again, Barbara. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to move on now to appointments. Bob Pearls is a new appointment to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Do I have a motion to approve Mr. Pearls?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Does anybody want to make? Yes, sir. Councilor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. So I noticed that he applied for 3 positions. What position is he really looking forward to? Is it?
Well, he told me planning and zoning. I don't know what the other 2 were.
Well, I think if I remember right.
He's here in the audience.
But I mean, that's what I mean, because if we were to grant him all 3 positions, there might be a conflict of interest between, you know, the 3, but if he has one that's more desirable than the others.
Sure, absolutely. Because I don't know what he's talking about.
Good to see everybody.
Please state your name and your address and speak in the
Thanks.
microphone.
I'm Bob
please.
Pearls. I'm at 644 Dixon Road. I've lived here since 1990. I just wanted to volunteer. It's been a long time since I've been involved with village operations. The mayor and I ran into each other a month or so ago, and I asked if I could help out, and I listed 3 different things I was interested in potentially doing. P&Z was at the top of the list. I don't want to do other positions, just P&Z at this point.
That's actually what, it was actually a little more than what he described. I think I did twist his arm a couple of times. But no, the idea was planning and zoning.
So is there more than one position open right now for P and Z, or is there just the one?
I think there's just one open.
Just the one.
Okay.
Mr. Black became the cabinet officer for economic development up there with the governor.
Okay. Thank you.
We obviously made good choices. I mean, look at what he did.
Yeah.
Or breeding ground.
Yeah. Bob, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So how do you vote, Councilor Mira?
Yes, sir.
Councilor Woolman?
Aye.
Councilor Knight?
Aye.
Councilor Alsobrook?
Aye, and best of luck.
Councilor Burkett?
Aye, yeah, Parks and Rec would have been more fun.
Councilor Murray?
Yes, and bring your body armor.
Yeah, I think I did mention a Kevlar vest. I'm not sure if well, okay. Next is a reappointment for Tony Messick to the Parks and Rec Commission. Do I have a motion to approve Tony Messick?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
And a second? Any discussion, any comments? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
There you go. Any against, say nay? Okay. The ayes have it. So next we will listen to the old dog balloonist, also known as our village administrator, give his report.
Only once a year. It's only once.
Yeah. Well, we got into a conversation in the office
Oh,
and he told me all about the balloon fiesta. And he said there weren't many old dog balloonists left. And I said, oh, I love that. Go ahead, Rob.
Thank you, Mayor. Tanya.
Let's see. Thank you, Mayor, Council Administrator Curry. I'll start off with, as always, my COVID update and influenza-like illness update. So influenza activity in New Mexico is still low. And I know I've talked about waiting to get your shot till we start getting higher. But as we start getting closer to October, I really encourage people to at least try to get their shot by October 15th. So we don't get a surprise when influenza activity picks up. For COVID in the United States this last week, we had 5,300 hospitalizations reported. Now, hospitals are no longer required to report, so our numbers are low, so it's probably about 3 times that. However, November 1st, hospitals will be required to report COVID hospitalizations again, so we'll be getting more numbers. And with those 5,300 that hospitals are reporting, 12% of those patients were in the ICU. Some interesting numbers were from July 29th to August 28th. The largest group at 5% of ED visits was 0 to 11 years old, which means school, which we knew school was going to play into effect with that. It's now down to 2% for that age group. Nationwide average right now is 1.66 of all hospital outcomes being COVID, with 65 to 75 at 2% of their people are in that age group have COVID, and 75 plus is 2.9%. They're also still the largest group that are being hospitalized. Right now in the United States, the major variant is KP 3.11, which is a flirt variant, which is still an Omicron variant. So the vaccines should work well to keep you from getting seriously ill and hopefully requiring hospitalization or causing death. In July, this last US update for case positivity rate, 14.9%, which is down from 16.5. New Mexico's positivity rate for the state is 12.9. However, Sandoval County is still at 17.6%. And remember, those are only cases that went to a place to get tested or an emergency room, not home tests. Still getting a lot of people who are telling me they're getting COVID because they've gone to a meeting or gone somewhere where someone's sick or just thought it was a little cold, and then a whole bunch of people are sick. So if you're sick, please stay home. Think about the others around you. ED visits went down to 1.7% US wide, down from 2.1. And deaths are still holding steady at 2.3% of all deaths in the United States were due to COVID from their last update. Be happy to answer. Oh, free tests. They keep saying at the end of September, the free test stuff is not out yet. I will make sure Melanie and the mayor have that information if the free tests for each home are out by the time the next mayor's message goes out. And if anyone needs help getting shots, navigating treatment, please let me know and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Before you take any questions, Tanya, I saw the chief and some of his folks constructing that device that is in your background this afternoon.
Yes.
Why don't you tell them what it is? I think I know what it is, but it sounds better coming.
And so I'm calling it Minions to the Rescue. So those minions were donated to us several years ago by a local artist. And, you know, there's the big push to do the scarecrows for the Harvest Fest and leading up till Trick or Trunk. So that is our entry. The minions are rescuing a firefighter, and I believe he has a Dalmatian in his lap. I'm going to try to see if I can find someone to help us paint up the minions, and the chief wants to put bunker gear on them. So if there's any sewers out there and want to reach out to me to help me with that, that'd be great. But yeah, all in the spirit of Corrales.
Thank you, Tanya.
You're welcome.
Couple more things of interest. This Friday, the offices will close at noon here in the administrative offices and other places in the village because of Harvest Fest. So if you have any village or any of your constituents have any business with the village, please try to let them know that we will be closing at noon. There's been some spraying for mosquitoes up and down Corrales Road, in and out around the green belt. If you have folks, and as it gets cooler at night, that the spraying will decrease or has decreased already quite a bit. But if you have folks that are in the green belt that don't want any spraying necessarily in and around their home, they just need to put out a sign or contact us. This is being done by an individual that was contracted out of Sandoval County. And so it's almost done at this point, but just wanted to make you aware of that. Also of note, on October 21st through the 24th in the new gym, the Legislative Finance Committee will be holding their meetings here in the village of Corrales. So we'll have a number of state representatives and state senators that will be in the village for a period of days. We were hoping that the village will be able to make through the mayor some presentations at the beginning of the LFC meetings. But for those of you who have never attended an LFC meeting, it's a good show. And there's some business conducted as they get ready to head into the next legislative session. And they're hearing from a lot of people from around the state, but we're pleased that they contacted us and wanted to have their meetings here because we will have a chance to do a little show off from the village, some of the monies that the legislature's provided us over the years. And so make a note of that. It's October 21st and 24th. And as we get more details, it's a 4-day meeting or a 3.5-day meeting. Councilor Mira, I'm sure, can provide some details from some past experiences. I believe the Senate is chairing the LFC this year, which would be Senate Finance Chairman George Munoz from Gallup. Regarding the Balloon Fiesta, it starts a week from this coming Saturday. And the theme this year is Embrace the Sky. And Corrales, for all of you who have not heard this, Corrales is mentioned every morning at the pilot's briefing because Corrales is a very important part of the Balloon Fiesta at this point because of the diminishing spaces in Albuquerque, especially if you fly south. So there'll be approximately 550 balloons, and we are welcoming them to Corrales. There's a lot of spaces here that balloonists can take off from if they so choose, whether it's the Gonzalez property across the street, the Anderson property, the Parks and Rec area down there. I think last year at one time they had 60 balloons launching. And then there are a number of balloonists that I know that have made friends over the years that they'll come back to various properties and launch from their individual property and fly back to Fiesta Field for competition. So, it's too early to forecast the winds, but if you fly directly south from Balloon Fiesta Field, directly to the south from Balloon Fiesta Field, and there's no box, and for those of you not familiar with the box, just briefly, there's a flow that goes down the Rio Grande, and there's a flow from the cool air that's flowing down the Rio Grande, and it can be as deep as 500 feet or sometimes as deep as 1,000 to 1,500 or 2,000 feet. So balloonists who will take that flow down the river and then climb up to a higher altitude, depending on what it is that day, what can be 1,000 to 2,000 feet above the ground, and come back over here to Corrales or to Rio Rancho or other parts of Albuquerque further to the southwest. And the reason why Corrales is mentioned is because of the landing and and launching spots that we have here. But it's also mentioned because there are some areas of Corrales that people do not want balloons to land in for one reason or another. The Balloon Fiesta is very sensitive to this, and they're very high on landowner relationships. And so if people do not want for balloons to land in their property, they can place a red X or a red marking out there. They can also contact the Balloon Fiesta office and tell them each pilot has in his balloon a sliding guidance chart, an air chart of the Albuquerque area. So as they're flying into Corrales, or if they're flying into the river to do a splash and dash, they can look at this to make sure that they are not landing or flying over prohibitive areas. They are trained to use different types of burners or burner functions when they're flying over livestock area. They're very sensitive to horses, and the letters that we've provided them welcoming them to Corrales remind them to be careful about agricultural and livestock in our community. But I believe there are probably 7 balloonists that habitate the village of Corrales, including I know that one of our firemen, John Pata, is a balloonist, and he at one time or another, he has been a safety officer out the Balloon Fiesta, so he is acutely aware and tells other balloonists about the good things and the bad things about flying into Corrales. But Corrales is each year, again, because of the diminishing spots that exist in the city of Albuquerque, Corrales, Rio Rancho, become an important part of Balloon Fiesta, and they recognize that. They recognize that. And so if you have constituents that like balloons, they can put out a white X that we have them here at Village Hall that we can give them. And if you have constituents who prefer not to have them near their property or land on their property, put something out red, and the balloonist will respect that. If a balloonist for some reason or another, or their crew, do something that is contrary to what the landowner's wishes are, or contrary to what is on what they call a prohibitive zone on the maps in Balloon Fiesta, that particular pilot and crew can be called to the tower the next day, because there's a pilot's briefing that is mandatory every day for all the pilots, and they can be called to the tower, and some sort of discipline will be issued to them. The Balloon Fiesta takes this very seriously, and the FAA has granted the Balloon Fiesta and the Balloon Fiesta pilots waivers. All balloon pilots have to pass a test on the rules of Fiesta before they can register. They do that via video, and that deadline expired this last Sunday, and all pilots who are registered, including myself, had to pass that test to be able to fly. In addition to that, you have to have a certain amount of experience hours before you can fly in the Balloon Fiesta. It's a highly regulated activity, and there's a big stress on landowner relations. So if you have each day at when a balloonist lands, say a balloonist comes in and lands at Councilor Miera's house, or lands in front of his house, and he welcomes them with open arms, or at least allows them to be on their property, then his name is given back to the Fiesta officials, and there's a good chance that that particular person will be put into not a drawing, but into a selection process where he would be awarded a series of gifts and thank yous in the form of some sort of gift or presence to let them know that we appreciate what the landowners in Corrales are doing. But if you or any of your constituents have any problems or concerns, please contact the village. You can contact Melanie. You can contact me, and because it's very important for the Balloon Fiesta to maintain this sort of relationship. So,
Stuart.
Thank you, Mayor. Ron, so to follow up on last year's comment my son made about the porta potties down at the rec center, I understand those are under the Soccer Association purview, if I'm not mistaken. Is there any thought about opening, is there a bathroom over in the Wells Fargo facility that could be used by the pilots and the crews if they come in through this way?
There is a bathroom. But
Is it functional?
yeah, I haven't used it.
We don't, I can't answer that because we're still doing some sewer hookup work with Wells Fargo, with the building over there.
Is there any chance that maybe we could put a couple porta potties over by the Wells Fargo building just for that? Because if we don't have any ability to convey to the soccer group that they need to pump those things, especially after a weekend, where kids
Yeah.
have been there. And my son, like he said, he went in there and he said it was atrocious. So to make it more welcoming within the village, we ought to at least have a couple that are maintained at least.
It's good, the good thought, and we'll
Good
take a
thought.
look at it.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly take a look at it, but please don't hesitate during Fiesta to call Melanie or myself, and we'll try to accommodate any of the constituents. There's several glows that take place during Fiesta, but everything, of course, is based on weather, and all the pilots fly under a waiver. Like I said, it's issued by the FAA, and there are certain weather restrictions that are on the field and aloft that determine whether the balloons will fly on every day. And once the balloons are given permission to fly or take off, it's up to individual pilots as to whether they fly. So it's a great event and it's a lot of fun. And if you have out of town visitors, for those of you who have never been to the Fiesta or they haven't been to the Fiesta, it's a one of a kind event. I've been out there in one form or another. I'm Fiesta Light anymore as I kind of wind down after 44 years of flying in Fiesta. But it's one of those events that most pilots will tell you, including John, I think, is that once you come onto the field in the morning, you have a certain sense of adrenaline rush that is nothing like it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Real quick question on that one. They usually have a liftoff from schools one day. So is the Alameda included in that one, as you know?
I believe both the Christian Academy and Corrales Elementary involved.
True. Thank you, sir.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir, Bill.
Ron, somewhat unrelated, if I may. We're going to be voting later on the Meadowlark funding, and whether or not to approve. But I was just wondering is there a timeline that once the funding is in place for the construction on Meadowlark, and also are all residents on board now?
We've informed all of them, and and it's the fact we're looking at early next year for everything to begin. And when we first approached, as you well know, as most of the people in the village know, the Meadowlark project has 20 to 25 years of fingerprints on it from all sorts of different people and counselors and mayors and administrators. We were initially dealing with site triangles for the people that were coming out of the cul-de-sacs on the south side of the road. And after much discussion, we decided that we would not attempt to go in there and deal with the right-of-way issues that were required for those site triangles to be adhered to. And because myself, Steve Grohlman, and others walked the entire length of Meadowlark, talked to the residents several times, it became clear to us if we went with some of the original thoughts and designs on it, where the site triangles would come into play, is that the project would never be done. So we moved the pathway further out so that the site triangles would not have to be adhered to because of the type of path that we're going to put out. We're going to put curbing on both sides. one of the reasons we're putting on curbing on both sides is to protect the asphalt itself, so it doesn't deteriorate over the years. And then we're going to have, most of the initial pathway will be on the north side of the roadway. And then you'll be able to walk on the south side as well, but it won't be in a situation where you'll be within the site triangle pass. So it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And it's one of the things that has been frustrating for a lot of reasons, as Randy Audio could tell you. Is it one of the first things that I had to do when I came here within 2 weeks was order construction on the road stopped because of various reasons dealing with the highway department and the particular contractors involved. And so it's got a problematic history. And so now we're going to finish it. It's going to be a safer road. It's going to be a road that's protected by the curbs, and it's going to give access on either side for pedestrians.
Good, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, you through?
Old. You said I was old. Old dog.
Old dog, boy, that's right. All right, so we'll move on then, old dog. To the Corleone's Forum. This section is for informational purposes only, not for discussion or debate, to inform the governing body of an issue or concern that would not be addressed on the agenda during the business session. There's a 3-minute time limit. And I know you have one. Who's going to be first?
First will be Representative Kathleen Cates, and she's going to join us by Zoom.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I wanted to take a moment to recognize, I was so grateful for the governor, the war chief, and all of our neighbors on the east side of the river that attended the meeting today. But I wanted to reach out and thank the mayor, the administrator, and all of the counselors who really lended their voices to bring the issues to our irrigators in Corrales, through up to our national delegation. I have faith in this process. Everybody is really working well together. The governor said that we're working 2 governments, but we're really working like 5. And I have faith that we will move forward and get the siphon up within the timeline that is allowed. Is a large project. I just want to bring to all the leaders in the room's attention at this point is that we have another large issue, which is what are we going to do for water for our irrigators before the siphon has been built. And so that is still an issue that we need to work on. I know that there are many different answers or many different possibilities. I know that this is not a point to discuss all those possibilities. I just want to make sure that leadership understands that this isn't over. We do need to advocate, continue advocating for our irrigators on making sure that 2025 they're able to have access to water, or have other kind of strategies on what to deal with. In all of my opportunities, I remind people that in January, the Interstream Commission released the 50-year water report, saying that we will have 25% less water in 50 years. It's 25% less water than we have right now. So having aggressive water conservation and plans for long-term planning is very essential in keeping our agricultural community. I mean, not only is this part of our history, but I, for one, like to eat. And so I want to make sure that we are protecting one of the things that makes Corrales special, which is its historical agricultural land. And thank you for letting me speak.
Well, thank you.
Up next is Rudy Mieta. Rudy, if you could come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes.
So my name is Rudy J. Mieta, and I live at 116 East Meadowlark. My Visa card is 987. No, too much information. I'm going to keep it brief. This is basically just an announcement, actually an invitation. A week from tonight, next Tuesday at our library, starting promptly at 5:30 p.m., we're going to have a screening of the classic film, The Milagro Beanfield War. One of our running themes this evening is small farmers and water. For those of you who have never seen the film, it deals with a young man whose father was a farmer and his grandfather was a farmer, and he hasn't been having access to water. And one day he accidentally kicks one of the water gates, and he finds himself watering his father's old bean field. And so no spoiler alerts. I'm going to stop right there. Okay, that's it. For those of you who have seen the film, you want to come out and see it again because it's very, very funny. Again, it begins at 5:30 next Tuesday, October 1st at our library. The chess club meets in the adult room, so we're going to be in the teen room, okay? This is family night. I want you to bring all your kids, grandkids, and so on. And so anyway, we hope that we see you. And I understand that Marion might even have some popcorn for us. Maybe I shouldn't say that. It'll run out right away, right? Okay. Oh, and also I can confirm that that evening we will have in attendance Ruby Nichols, who was married to the author John Nichols, who wrote the screenplay based on his novel, which he wrote. And so she'll be there to maybe just give a short statement. Maybe her daughter Tanya will be there too. We'll see. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Troy. And Troy, I'm sorry, I cannot read your last name. Clum. If you'll come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes.
Bring down the house with what I've got to say, but after hearing about balloons that I try to put out to everyone that I meet, and I travel a lot, I tell everybody, come to Balloon Fiesta, you're gonna love it. And that was a great movie, Milagro Beanfield War in the book. My name is Troy Clum. I live at 104 Laura Lane. And I wrote it down this time. Let's see. I have concerns about the proposed changes in the village lighting ordinance. I'm besides myself trying to understand why you would seek to limit the rights of our residents to file complaints and hold the village accountable for enforcing its own regulations. Whether we're discussing noise, odor, or light ordinances, these protections exist to ensure the community's well-being. Why then would the village move in the direction of restricting our ability to address violations? This proposed change erodes accountability. It creates serious doubts about how infractions of the lighting ordinance will be verified and addressed. Is this an attempt to reduce the workload for the village staff? How does this shift in responsibility alter the village's obligations? What am I not seeing? If this new language is adopted, I'd like to know if there's a solid plan to actually verify and enforce light ordinance infractions. Without clear enforcement mechanisms, we're left to wonder if the village is truly committed to addressing the issue of light pollution. For example, Section 1842 E1 mentions that lighting fixtures is non-compliant if it reflects nuisance light that exceeds the maximum UGR, Unified Glare Rating value. However, there's no clear information on what UGR value the village permits or how the village measures these values when a complaint is received. Does the village currently have a process in place to measure UGR values? If not, how can violations be verified and addressed? Moreover, the ordinance states that exterior light fixtures limited to, this is my little pet peeve, limited to 15 feet in height. Yet we have examples such as the lights at Ex Novo, which are at 23 feet. These inconsistencies only add to the ambiguity of the ordinance and further demonstrate the lack of enforcement we're seeing today. My objections are twofold. The limitation of eroding of our rights as citizens by limiting the role of citizens' complaints. This proposed change weakens the checks and balances that keep the village accountable. We must maintain the right to file written complaints to ensure that those complaints trigger timely investigations. Anything less would be a disservice to the community. The non-enforcement of the existing ordinance is the other one. The village is not currently enforcing the light ordinance in any meaningful way. So instead of making changes that reduce accountability, why not take the opportunity to make meaningful updates that address these important gaps? The ambiguity in the current ordinance is rampant. And without clear process for measuring violations and enforcing compliance, we're left with the ineffective system. If the village is going to trouble of revising the ordinance, I urge you to make changes that strengthen enforcement, not diminish it. This includes maintaining a clear role for citizen complaints, ensuring that violations are properly measured for example, with clear guidance on UGR values, and addressing height violations such as those already present in the community. I strongly believe that the village should be talking about ways to improve the enforcement of what's already on the books rather than retreating from its responsibilities. I would appreciate your consideration of these concerns.
Thank you. So perhaps I read over it too quickly, but usually this time frame is used to inform the governing body of an issue or a concern that would not, and perhaps we should add, will not be is not on the agenda. This is on the agenda.
Isn't it also an open comment period?
Yes, but it's not when we have something on the agenda. You could speak when it comes up on the agenda. And
Okay.
that would be no.
I'll say it again.
you let-
I got it written down.
Well, you said your piece. You had your opportunity. But that's all. I mean, no, we didn't stop you. It's just that that has been historically what we've done, and it may not have been, I may have kind of read over it too.
Well,
quick.
that's my confusion then on
No.
when the proper time is.
That's okay. It's no big deal. We just didn't stress it, and I probably read over it too fast. But thank you for your comments. And we won't forget them.
Up next is Joan Hashimoto. Joan, if you could come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
I'm Joan Hashimoto, 485 East La Entrada. Hello, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I would like to express my thanks for people who made the bosque wood removal at Andrews Lane this past Saturday, the 21st, a success. Corrales Fires, Deputy Chief Nick Molinari, and firefighter Julian Trujillo for supervising and driving the tractor. Village maintenance is Marcus Tomer and Jared Lowe, drivers of huge trucks, and Sandoval County for allowing the 2 truckloads of decayed wood to be dumped as green waste free of charge. And I thank volunteers and CBAC member participants. This effort helps to decrease the fuel load and lower the wildfire risk. It was a good job by all. Thanks very much.
And
Thank you.
the last speaker for the Coraleños Forum tonight is Rudy Pena. Is that the correct? I think it says Rudy. Okay. Then I believe we are done.
So I'll say thank you, Chief, for getting your guys out there and helping. Thanks a lot. Okay, we will move on now to, before we go to Councilors Forum, I don't know if everybody noticed that we have an invitation from the Farmland Conservation Commission on page 8 to do a walkthrough on the 16th to look at I think it's 3 properties they're going to show. There are 3 easements, meet at 9 o'clock at Parea's, and then they're going to take you. So we'll have to put up a possible quorum.
Notice of possible quorum is already up on the website, and that's their regular meeting time in October. They're putting up signs on the 3 of the
And
conservation.
then after you
easements.
finish, you can have lunch at Parea's.
I like it.
Not a bad place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll move on now to Councilors Forum. And once again, this section is for informational purposes only, not for discussion or debate at this time, to inform the governing body of an issue or a concern that would not be addressed on the agenda during the business session. Yes, sir, Councilor Burkett.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to give another thanks to Fire Department, the Police Department, Parks and Rec, most of the departments in the village for the Corrales Ditch Run this weekend. It was a great event. There were a ton of people there. It is something that the Cook family and Kiwanis Club should be very proud of. physically, I wish I would not have done it, but emotionally and spiritually, it was a fantastic event, and I saw a ton of friendly faces out there, and I highly encourage anyone to do it that hasn't. It's a great event.
Yes, sir, Councilwoman.
Two things. First of all, I want to thank Melanie for the committee summaries that were in the packet this time. It was really helpful be able to go through those. And secondly, several of us attended the presentation by Mike Hammond at the library regarding the status of water in the state. We've discussed previously the long-term prospects of developing water and wastewater systems for the village. Given the length of time needed to reach a shovel-ready state and the current availability of both state and federal infrastructure funds, I propose we proceed to a full discussion of our current state, what our needs are, and what it will take to achieve a full system, perhaps a work study. Septic systems belong in the past. Given the concern with the aquifer, as well as the continuing drought, I suggest also that we require by ordinance an advanced treatment system for all new construction, as well as for system replacement. This will help in the interim until we can get a full systems in place. It's time we focus on the future of water and the survival of Corrales. Thank you.
Where were you 16 years ago?
I know. I left that to
Council Murray.
Council, I
Thanks,
also
Mayor.
went to carry the water on that one.
Well, follow up with Representative Cates' comments. The other big thing we've got to worry about too is in terms of water, El Vado is right now being redesigned because the current system that they had put in place is not working. We need to put pressure on the Corps of Engineers that they don't need 5 years to redesign this. They need to get a fix in place so that we can get El Vado back in place for the MRGCD to store water. Now, I know that the MRGCD has Abiquiu and a few other places where they can store water, but that's very iffy. And I think it's better to have it up at El Vado, which is further up north, less chance of evaporation. So we need to really put pressure on the Corps of Engineers that they need to get moving on this.
Do you know anybody at the Corps of Engineers?
No, I don't.
Have you had the opportunity to work with the Corps of Engineers?
No, but
It would be like trying to move the earth by yourself.
I know.
In fact, at SCAFCA, we had a little experience with the Corps of Engineers. And we, in fact, told them to leave and just let us do the job because it was taking them so long to come up with a plan for a flood control structure. And there was a little bit of an argument, a push and a shove, but it's as far as I was toward the end of my term up there, but as far as I recollect, they sort of gave in because apparently there was a manpower issue also. I don't know what the manpower issue was, but they just let us take the money and do the job. But it's a bureaucracy, and it's sometimes difficult to find the right person who can give you the answer or who can do the job.
Well, either that or we need to get our congressional folks involved again and have them start pushing on the Corps of Engineers because, 5 years to design something, I think that's a little ridiculous. They need to, if they've already got existing designs on other dams, why can't they use it for the El Vado?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I'm not an engineer, but we can certainly, because we'll have an opportunity to talk to them in the coming months because we're dealing with legislative funds.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we don't get a good snowpack this year, I think.
We probably aren't.
Yeah, Representative Cates is very, very right that we're going to be in dire straits. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Mira.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to give you a quick update on Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District with regards to, I think in general, just use the word farmland preservation, but the discussions that we've had here, I had a call literally just minutes before the meeting tonight. Colin Boff from MRG CDC let us know that they're continuing to work at their end and actually are sending a letter, which we should be getting a copy of by tomorrow morning. I was looking to see, try to send to me tonight here, but I'm looking for it. Wasn't over here yet. But bottom line is that I did talk to Representative Cates. She wants to carry the bill that we were talking about. I think the big issue right now that we're looking at is in the bill, do we do an amendment to the existing law, or do we have to maybe just go a whole different route with regards to how we want to deal with individuals who are not getting their their fair share when it comes to having their, at the assessor's office. So we're moving on that one and we still plan to have a bill that as it's coming up.
So you're going to try to change the law regarding agricultural exemptions? Is that what you're trying?
Yeah, or at least clarify, it, and that's the issue. Should we do a amendment to the bill, or just, we're gonna clarify it so that everybody is looking at the same piece of legislation and interpreting it the same way, whether or not you're in Bernalillo County or you're in Sandoval County.
I would think that would be the most logical.
So I just want to keep you
Now,
updated.
I don't know which letter you were talking about. I got a
It
copy.
has, oh, did you get one?
I got a copy of a letter that Jason Kasuga received. Is that the one you're talking about?
Actually, there was one that they were sending, it's probably make reference to that particular letter, so we should be getting another one tomorrow from
Okay.
MRGCD going.
Well,
okay.
he's coming to the village tomorrow, so we'll have plenty of opportunities to talk to him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay. Anyone else? All right. So we'll move on to the consent agenda. And so we have approval of minutes from September 10th, 2024, regular council meeting. And we have approval of resolution 24-69 of budget adjustment resolution. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Well, no, this is automatic. So how do you vote, Counselor Mira?
Yes, sir.
Counselor Woolman?
Aye.
Counselor Knight?
Aye.
Counselor Alsobrook?
Aye.
Counselor Burkett?
Aye.
Counselor Murray?
Aye.
All right, all approved. Now we'll talk about new business. Consideration action approval of the Focal Fall Book Sale Event Application. It's gonna be a real crowd over there. I have a motion
So moved.
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? Yes, sir.
Well, sir, thank you, Mayor. What I'm concerned about is the parking and making sure that Law and Trot is not being used for, for the parking for this event. So it sounded like, it was mostly going to be in the parking lot where people were parking, but I think the Gonzalez property is available, isn't it not?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, that's what we told Miriam this morning. To put people over there.
Yeah,
For
because
parking.
I mean, the arts in the park, if that's going to be in conjunction with the book sale,
So the book sale is going to take over part of the park and then the art's going to be in the other end. They've talked to each other and they're okay. Isn't that what Miriam said?
as long as the Gonzalez property is the primary parking for that, for that event, that's fine.
That's where the vast majority is going to have to go because there won't be any room in the library area. Also, Champ's going to be there too with some activity, right?
Yes, part of art in the park.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Marion said
I
she
mean-
would direct everybody to park it at Gonzalez. They'll have somebody there at the parking
Well,
lot.
I noticed they said
the-
they put
the library.
signs out not to park on La Entrada, but people like to ignore signs.
Well, we have a lot of adults talking to each other,
Good.
which has been unusual in the past, which is a good thing.
Thank you.
So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Okay, ayes have it. So the fall book sale event application is approved. We'll go on to number 2, consideration action approval of resolution 24-70, adopting a substance abuse policy for village employees. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion for and a second. Any discussion? It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I'm just reading through just a question on medical cannabis. That's there's a little bit of mention in here of
I don't use it.
federal versus state laws. Anyway, my question was, it seemed like it wasn't, it avoided, I just want to get it straight. It avoided the whole question of impairment and trying to assess or judge impairment, and by just universally blanketing use on the job.
It is true with any drug like that you don't want use on the job. And the problem, there are a multitude of problems with cannabis.
Okay.
When you test for cannabis and you do a blood draw, marijuana stays in your system for 30 days. So it is very difficult to obtain good data on when an employee is impaired. What typically is done is it usually arises for, and let me go back one step. We have two classifications of employees, and that was one of the most important parts of this, was to be really clear that for safety sensitive folks, we have to apply the national standards of federal law. And so there is no medical marijuana allowed for safety sensitive or any other type of marijuana. For non-safety sensitive, which will be the vast majority of employees of the village. Well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, I don't know what the cut is, but maybe Melanie has some more information. We are going to be doing another analysis of that to make sure we do it right. But for non-safety sensitive, so just your average employee who it doesn't have life and property at risk every day by driving or by having a weapon and be able to use force with it. They can use medical marijuana. They can use off duty. They can have a prescription for it just like anybody else would. They just simply can't be impaired at work. So that's where the line is. Again, is that easy? No, of course not. But it's what everyone is working with. We're no different than any other employer.
Yes, sir. Councilor.
That brings to mind, what alternatives do we have for false positives? Especially when I worked at the labs, poppy seeds were always seemed like the item that created the most false positives. If you were tested, I mean, does an employee have an alternative if he is tested and then it comes up positive, but it's because of he ate a sandwich with poppy seeds in it or something like that? Is there an alternative?
The elusive poppy seeds. So yes, what normally happens in the testing process is there is an ability for the employee to get a retest and a verification of that. And Melanie, do you have any details on what the current practices are? One of the chiefs might as well.
I mean, we don't do, we do pre-employment testing on some of our employees. And then we test if somebody has suspicion of an employee being.
So you don't
we don't do a lot of drug testing.
You
at the
don't do
moment.
regular testing, like they did at the labs, like every 6 months, your name might come up and then you'd have to go in for a drug test.
No, our previous policy didn't really allow for that, but this one will.
In the future, for safety sensitive employees, there may be a system created for random testing.
Okay.
But right now there is none.
Okay.
Councilor Burkett.
So in the on-duty use section, it says that there's consequences if you're caught consuming alcohol or using drugs. But the way I'm reading that is that if you did it 6 minutes before your shift started, it doesn't say anything about being under the influence of previous use or of drugs or alcohol. So
that's where you get into the reasonable suspicion part. So if you have an employee who you believe is intoxicated, regardless of when they consumed it, then you can give them a reasonable suspicion test. You would go to HR and they would review the symptoms. And if they determine that they believe that you could be intoxicated, then we would test you.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a little bit too much emphasis. I think the problem isn't as much people consuming while on duty. I mean, it can happen, but it's coming to work or being impaired while they're at work.
What? Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
Counselor, we've had experiences in the past where we've had employees that we have sent for testing if they've had an accident with some equipment or in a car. So we have done that and we will continue to do that.
Councilor Alsobrooke?
Yeah, just a brief follow-up to one of Councilor Murray's questions. I've run a few toxicology labs. Our technology is better now. We do a first pass screen on fluids, and then if there's a hint of a positive, we do a reflex to a deeper, more sensitive analytic method. And if those come back up, then
it's more specific.
Exactly.
Yeah, and there are fail safes done, and if they're looks like there is a chance of a false positive, there would be retests.
Yep.
So it's all in the
Yep.
protocol created by the testing agency that we utilize.
So go ahead and eat your poppy seed bagel. Okay. Thank you.
Well, I don't like poppy seeds either, so that doesn't. Okay. Anybody else? So are we ready to vote? Councilor Mira, how to vote?
Yes, sir.
Councilor Woolman,
Aye.
Councilor Knight,
Aye.
Councilor Alsabrook,
Aye.
Councilor Burkett,
Aye.
Councilor Murray.
Aye.
Okay, that's good. Okay, now we're going to move on to consideration action approval of resolution 24-71, adopting an updated fees schedule. I need a motion to approve resolution 24-71.
I move we approve the resolution 2471.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Very good. Okay, any discussion, any comments, any questions? Yes, sir.
I have one question, and it's my question specific to the gym and pool stuff, but it could be applied further. I would like to see village residents pay a lighter fee than people that are not village residents, since village residents have already paid for these facilities with their taxes. I think that they should be able to get in and use the facilities for less than someone who hasn't contributed to that. But I'm not sure the practical implications of that, to be honest. So I'm be curious anyone else's thoughts on that. I know other places do that where they have a resident and non-resident fee for use of gym facilities or pool facilities or rental facilities.
How do you want to verify that? Do you want to bring in a gas bill or something?
I mean, even an ID, something, I think it would be something, particularly when we look at memberships, it would only have to get verified once, and then their name could go into the resident list.
Okay, I'll defer to the attorney. What are the legal implications of that?
We can take a look at it. I mean, I think the thing that you normally can't discriminate based upon the location of anyone, where anyone lives, you know. It's the whole, goes back to the thing of travel between states. States can't, you should have the same rights everywhere where anyone else does.
Right.
But for situation like this, we may have a narrow opportunity because, to your point, people are already paying for it. And that may help us do it. I can look into it if it's the will of.
I mean, I certainly know that
council.
someone from Texas pays more for a hunting license than someone from New Mexico does to come hunt in New Mexico. So there is a pathway to do it. And we just, as citizens, spent $4.5 million on this gym. So I think it would do two things. One, it would acknowledge that the citizens have already paid part of the gym. And I think it would also make it easier for the citizens to get in there when certain times it's full of people from everywhere else in the village, or everywhere else outside the village, that it would make it financially easier for citizens to maybe have some preferential access.
This actually was discussed, and I think we pretty much said to each other, Lynn and I, that how do we go about telling somebody up the hill that they can't, that they have to pay more than somebody who lives in the village? I mean, we just didn't see, and we may be able to find some narrow window that we can put it in.
Yeah.
Councilor Mira.
Thank you, Mayor. Counselor, I hadn't thought about it until you brought it up, but should we, as I look at all the issues that could be brought up, community center, senior center, et cetera, are you thinking about a lower price for all of those or just the new gymnasium?
I mean, my initial thought was the gymnasium just because it was a recent expenditure, but.
Well, the mayor sometimes has the opportunity to not charge for the use. Okay. And we, in fact, were offering that to some uses this weekend, but the people wanted to pay because they wanted to contribute to the village.
Sure.
But we do that occasionally on some things. It's basically judgment, I guess you could say.
Got it.
How you kind of throw it in that basket. Anyway, no, there was some thought of that. We just we couldn't think of a relatively, because everybody's going to talk, you know, they're going to say, oh, what do you pay? Or something like that. So we just decided it was probably discretion was a better part of valor, and just to go ahead and stick with one price. But we can look at that because we did think of that also.
Yeah. And I had a discussion with Lynn about it a while back, and it was a similar discussion to you. He liked the idea, but the implementation is
going to be tough
where it gets challenging. And yeah, I don't know necessarily how we do that. But I would like to see, I mean, kids from the village can ride over and shoot baskets for $1. And if a group of kids from Rio Rancho or adults or pickleballers come down, and they can pay a little bit more because they haven't funded any part of it thus far.
Yes, sir.
Well, two questions. One's a follow-up on that. fees here for the gymnasium, community center, et cetera, they're geared toward organizations or groups, not individuals. So individual use of
So.
shooting some hoops, where did I miss that?
I think it's next page up. Right.
Oh,
So, yeah, there's gym access.
there it is. Okay, thank you. All right, great, good. Thank you. Okay. Well, that takes care of that one. That's easy. Second question was regarding fees for parking lot use. I wasn't sure how do we differentiate that? For instance, the new restaurant in town, when their lot gets full, they let people know they can go down the road and park, but
This is when someone rents the parking lot for specific purpose, like a
like
wedding,
a single event.
Exclusively.
for a single event.
Okay.
This is not like when Sandia Bar's got 300 people there and they want to put their parking. I mean, we are offered that space because it's there and it's not that far away. Their people have to walk, whoever goes there. And it's like 300 feet.
Makes them
So-
better drivers. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That was a
Sure enough.
second question.
All right, Mayor, that brings up another.
Yes, sir, Stuart.
Thank you, Mayor. So follow up with Counselor Alsobrook's comments. Does that mean then, how do we prioritize that parking if, does village actually precede anybody coming in and trying to rent the parking lot or something like that?
I don't know if you've noticed, there haven't been many cars there lately.
Well, but
And we don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to that question. And we haven't talked about that question yet because we're not there yet.
Well, what I'm worried about is maybe if the event center across from the rec center becomes a reality and they want to rent the parking area right next to the rec center where the soccer fields are at, but we have the growers market in there or something like that. Who's going to who gets priority on that?
Well, we already have that issue. It's already happened a few times and we've dealt with it
Okay.
because, we have adults in the village who talk to each other. And like the like the Harvest Festival. And it was all worked out by the growers market, by the people who were putting on the Harvest Festival and Lynn Sieverts. They all figured out how they would do it. And so it's all going to work. We hope it will work smoothly. We had a few bumps last year and we think this year will be much smoother. We're each year we work on it a little bit more and get people talking. That's the key. Just like the governor of the Pueblo said, just need to get people talking.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay. So how do you vote, Councilor Murray?
Yes.
Councilor Burkett?
Yes.
Councilor Alsobrook?
Aye.
Councilor Knight?
Aye.
Councilor Woolman?
Aye.
And Councilor Mira?
Yes, sir.
All ayes. Okay, so we have a new fee schedule. Let's move on to 4. Approval of ordinance resolution 24-72 lodgers tax disbursement for payment of annual Granicus subscription. Do I have a motion to approve that?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second. Do we have any questions, comments, or discussion? Okay. How do you vote, Councilor Alsobrook?
Aye.
Councilor Knight?
Aye.
Councilor Burkett?
Aye.
Councilor Woolman?
Aye.
Councilor Murray?
Aye.
Councilor Mira?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. So number 5, resolution 24-73, publication notice for ordinance 24-19, amending village code section 18-42 regarding enforcement of lighting ordinance. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second? Okay, we're gonna leave it like it is, huh? Okay,
Can we have some background on this?
say again.
Can we have some background on this? I got a couple.
Is Sherry online? If you second it,
I'd like to make a motion just to discuss. Yeah.
You gonna second? Okay, we have a second. Is Sherry online? Oh, wait.
Just
sir, I am.
Okay, hold on, Sherry.
Just remember,
Okay.
this isn't for a vote on the substance. It's just to a resolution to public.
To put it
So
publish
if
in
there,
public.
if we need to tweak it along the way, we can.
Gotcha.
Yeah, this is to publish and post. It's,
I'd still like some background.
oh,
information.
sure. we're not voting on it. It's not going to change tonight. It'll change, it may change in a month and you'll have opportunities to do amendments.
Okay.
And they'll have opportunities to do amendments.
You know, I thought,
Sherry, you want to make a comment?
Well, right now, counselors, Mayor Vaughn, we are just changing the language as far as what's probably in your packet tonight for me to be able to enforce the ordinance. By going out there, determining if there truly is a violation. A lot of times there's not a violation. So we don't want to send folks notices if there's not. We only want to do that if there is. A lot of times we would get folks even from Rio Rancho complaining about a light that they thought might be an issue. So I would go out and I would check it to make sure that it truly was before any notice would ever be sent to a resident.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
You finished?
Who had their hand up?
Okay, yeah, I did. I just
Okay.
didn't know that if you were okay.
Well, you can go first. He can go second.
Okay. Yeah. On line 29, the striking of, when any citizen makes a complaint, 29, and then line 30 on the strikes, and then that, it's okay with the underlining of the new language. I wasn't too sure when I was listening to the individual who came and spoke, about that. And Sherry, do you see that where a citizen cannot make a complaint anymore? Or is it, can they still make a complaint to you and then you take it from there with the new language?
Correct. A citizen can come to me, obviously with a complaint, and then I will determine if there is truly a violation or not. And I always get back to folks if there's not one. That is just something that I do, so it doesn't leave them, hanging in the lurch. I try to be very communicative with the folks in the village and as well as anybody outside the village. I want them to know what I can do and what I can't do, to try to solve the issue.
Thank you. I figured that, but I just, the assumption was there in the fact that it was brought up earlier. Just that they can come to you and it doesn't end right there just because it's struck in on line 30. Thank you.
Counselor Knight.
yeah, I wanted to know if part of her working day is in the evenings so she can go out and see these lights. Because, doesn't make any
Oh, I'm
difference
sorry.
day. So you need to have part of your working time, I would think, at least, part of it during the month or during the week that you're available in the evenings to go and check out these residences or businesses.
Truly, Counselor Knight, I do not get that many light violations per year. I think I only had about 10 last year. And if I get like I said, a complaint, I will go out during the day. Usually I can tell if something needs a shield or it's not properly aimed down. And a majority of the time, that is the issue. Whether it's just the shield's broke or never had one, or with the winds or anything else, the light's not properly aimed down anymore. And if I have to, my boss will let me flex my time so that I can go out and check something at nighttime if I need to.
Well, I'm glad that's available because to me, that's when you're really going to find out if it's, I know you can visually see if it has a shield around it, but being there in the evening and seeing it and why a neighbor might be complaining about it is another thing. So I hope you're able to do that.
Yes, Counselor Knight, I am.
Okay, thank you. And another question I had was, the gentleman brought up when he came and spoke that the lights at Ex Nova are 23 feet high and they're only supposed to be, 18 or something? How did that happen?
Because he was talking about two different things. The 15-foot is for residential property. There are state regulations and stuff that specify what a commercial parking lot needs, and that is for the safety of the patrons. And I believe that is like 22 foot. I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
You're welcome.
Did you want to speak, Councilwoman?
I just have a very minor, it's
Okay.
more of a technical, line 14 on page 89. Whereas the village has fines, so one of those words should be taken out. Revision of the village code is necessary. I think the word has should be taken out.
Okay,
That's all.
typo. Okay. Yeah. Councilor Burkett, you were next.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So I misspoke to several citizens today on this because I read instead of an or, I thought it was and, that a citizen had to make a complaint and a village officer had to go do this stuff. So I thought this was actually eliminating steps in the process. I'm just curious, functionally, how does removing the ability for citizens or the verbiage stating they have the citizen or the right to make a complaint help us? Because it seems like really the process is identical in the new language versus the old language, other than we've specifically removed the verbiage stating that citizens can file a complaint.
Sherry?
I know I was looking at it and it is pretty much the same exact thing that I am doing now. And I believe all they did was shorten up some of the other word salad that was in that front paragraph. And they just kind of cleaned it up a little bit. It's truly pretty much the same.
Okay, also Brooke was, yeah.
Oh, thank you, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Where else in the code, at chapter 8 or chapter 18, or maybe it's even somewhere else, do we mention or provide the mechanism for citizens to make a complaint to the zoning officer? Because that's my concern here. If we have that encoded or captured in our code elsewhere, and it's clear that citizens can make a complaint and the language here is redundant, but if we don't have that anywhere else, then maybe we ought to think about that.
Well, on the village website, there's a place to file a complaint and it doesn't specify that it has to be only these certain things. So a resident can make a complaint about anything and send it in. They're supposed to send it to the clerk's office and then I take a look at it and decide which department needs to investigate this. And then that department goes out and checks it out no matter what it is. So I don't know that we have to have, Randy, that might be a question for you.
Generally, we have a complaint-driven process. Most code enforcement is complaint-driven because otherwise you can't get in your car and just drive around and cite people all day long. You get complaints of selective enforcement, so it's generally complaint-driven. And the problem with this language was that it implied that there was a special process for this complaint process versus all of our other complaint processes. It created this kind of an extra step when it said that when any citizen makes a complaint in writing to the village, an investigation by the village determines that there is a violation. Well, that's what's done, but it just never, it implies that that's the only way it can be done is with a citizen complaint where it may, in writing, and it may be that they just become aware of the problem. Many times, if there's a health and safety issue, let's say if there's a light with a screen completely gone, and they see that, they can enforce on it without getting the complaint. So I think it's just the language was awkward because it sounded like it required the complaint to be formal.
Can I interrupt? And just to follow up, right? So that's exactly how I thought it read, but I think the or right in front of when a citizen makes a complaint makes it clear that there's two processes. It can either be derived directly from planning and zoning employees or administration, or it can be started from a citizen filing a complaint. Because I thought the same thing. I thought that both boxes had to be checked for us and from an enforceability standpoint, and it looks like it says or instead of and.
Literally, the issues that came up where Sherry was having issues with the enforcement of this, and one of the attorneys in my office wrote it just to be more clear and concise and simple. If people are more comfortable with including that how complaints may be made or that complaints can be made, it's fine to say that. It's just that the language was so formalistic in the earlier version.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I think that was my first question, but the answer was is that all other complaints, there's a avenue for that, not just this one. Because then if we did
Correct.
that, we'd be creating one for this and one for that by
Better
taking
just
this.
to keep it uniform.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Councilor Murray, you were.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, right now I'm with Counselor Burkett in that we're not really changing anything by taking that language out. And why spend the money to post and publish and go through all the legal ramifications of us voting on this? And I've gotten several pushback from people who say, let's not do this, because they want that ability and they like seeing that wording in there that they can make a complaint about the dark skies. When I was on planning and zoning, I worked on this ordinance with Denny Rossman, and with the gentleman who spoke earlier, we had worked out a mechanism where there was a device that that the enforcement officer would have, and they would go out and they would actually measure based on the planning and zoning ordinance that we had passed. I don't know what's happened to that. I think it's probably gone by the wayside, sounds like. But to make a long story short, I support Councilor Burkett in that. Let's not change it. We're not really adding anything to the ordinance by taking it out. And let's save a few bucks and not do it.
Okay.
Mayor,
What
we do have some public comment.
Oh, okay.
People that they wanted to make. Okay. Up first is Sabine Schurter. Sabine, if you'll come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Sabine Schurter. I live on 47 Rincon. Well, I think the councillors have very well addressed the issues I was worried about. And I think the idea to keep the wording as is may be a very good one. So thank you very much for discussing it so much in detail and to preserve a resident's right to speak up if there's a problem and to address problems and to talk to their code enforcement officer and zoning administrator to have problems taken care of that are threatening our dark skies and our natural environment. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
Fred
you.
Hashimoto, if you'll state your name and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Fred Hashimoto, 485 East La Entrada. This ordinance change is very confusing. Obviously, you all are confused. We're confused too. Obviously, the citizen has a right to make an appeal, whether it's verbal or written. And if a complaint is issued or lodged, then investigation should be done. And in my field and most of your fields, written documentation is probably the best way to file a complaint, because if you file a verbal complaint, you don't have a trail of what happened to that complaint. You have something in black and white, you have a written statement, you know exactly where that was, where it's going, what happened to it. It's really confusing. Like it says now, either the compliance officer is aware of a complaint or resident files a written complaint, and that's deleted. And that doesn't say, that almost, one can interpret that saying, well, it's only the compliance officer that can look for a violation, because the resident doesn't have any way to file it. It is currently written, it says you can file a written complaint. You take that out, it doesn't say that a citizen can lodge a complaint somewhere. It's just a confusing wording. And, I would be in favor of just leaving it as it is, just because I think it tells the citizens that they can file a complaint. It'll be investigated, and do it in writing. And writing is probably the best document there is to find out what's the complaint, where's it gone, what happened to it. So anyway, I would be in favor of just leaving it as is. Thanks.
Up next is Sharisa Lopez. If you'll state your name and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes.
Lopez, 025 Rufus Lane, Dallas, of course.
I want to thank you guys for, I almost didn't even get up here, but I'm gonna say what I have to say just because I can. I come to you as one of the many Coloreños that are very concerned about so many things that are happening here in the village. I know that all of you have gotten letters or emails about the different ordinances that are maybe going to change. The light ordinance is the one that's being discussed tonight. I feel like if this new amendment goes through, it is not for the people of the village, it's for the businesses here. I have talked to many people in our village that have the same feeling I do. They have sent emails and letters and spoke about these things, but they don't seem to get any help. If the council members could really start listening to the people of our village that have lived here all their lives, or the people that just moved here but want to keep our night sky and the realness of the village, it would be very much appreciated. And I thank you guys for kind of understanding where we're coming from also. Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, Ricardo Blanco. Ricardo, if you could state your name and address for the record, you will have 3 minutes.
I am Ricardo Blanco. We're farmed at 4160 Krause Road. You guys did discuss a lot of the things I hope you would have. I feel it just, where I'm getting feedback from, is business friendly sort of cover. I stand before you to hopefully protect all the rights of my citizens, fellow citizens, to launch a complaint, but I'd also like to point out that that mechanism, without any guidance or if it isn't codified anywhere, is allowed to be abused. I'd like to switch ordinances to like the clean up your yard thing. Our people, everyone I speak to has gotten one of those letters, and it's people sticking their phones over their fences to take pictures, or it's the new neighbor who moved in and doesn't like your trailer there, blocking their view or whatever. It's been a historical way for us to be harassed. I don't know how we can avoid that. It seems to be an issue. But if we give one person the right to determine if something has been violated or not, I think it's going to lead to the illusion of impropriety or corruption. And in our day of conspiracy theories, I think the conspiracies will fly. So I hope you consider not changing the wording and continue to take everyone's complaint with seriousness, but also to establish some sort of decision-making protocol or something that would help guide your decision-making in that, because it has been used in the past to, I don't know what it would be, to get revenge or just to make people's lives hell. It's been pretty frustrating for a lot of us, and it seems to be something that I hear from almost everyone I speak to, especially those who are longtime residents of here and their grandfathers have been from here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marty Sanchez. Marty, if you'll come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Marty Sanchez. I live at 338 Wagner Lane. And I appreciate you all giving us the opportunity to, I want to say, reiterate what we've been saying all along. We would like to be part of the stakeholders, and not just for whether or not we're going to have an event center. I'm kind of putting that out of my mind for a while, but also about how we live our lives here at the village. Ricardo has a point when he's talking about us having some way to communicate about things that, quite frankly, in my opinion, smack of an HOA. It's not. We're a village. We're supposed to be our own communities. We're supposed to be our own masters of our fate on our property that we work, we pay taxes on, and in some cases, like my family, actually built our own house. I don't feel that way in the community anymore. This business about the lighting ordinance being changed, why? Why would it be changed? You're right. It's exact same verbiage. It just takes a little nuance out of it so that if, my opinion, if a resident was to complain about something like Ex Novo, their lighting really is obtrusive. But regardless, if a resident was to do it, they wouldn't really have a leg to stand on. If a business was to complain about something like that, it would come up and it would be dealt with, because it seems to me that our village has gone to the point where the business aspect, the money, the revenue, gross receipts, whatever it is more important to this village than the community members that actually made this village and sustained this village for what, a couple of 100 years now? I don't like living in an HOA. I am very offended by somebody coming to my property and telling me I've got to clean the weeds out of my property. Well, you know, the fact of the matter is, weeds to one person is sustenance to somebody else. What I've got growing all over my front yard is quelite. And if you all don't know what that is, it's a type of spinach. Is it a weed? Damn right it is. But it has been a weed that we consume with our frijoles and our chili for many, many generations. So somebody comes and tells me, clean that out? No, no, no. That's my right to have it there. If I'm a fire hazard, it won't be there long because I'm going to consume it. Thank you for listening to this, because I am extremely frustrated. Thank you.
Rudy Perea? I think he already left, right? Okay. And then, Mayor, I believe Lori wanted to address the council, if that's okay. She's on Zoom.
She on Zoom?
She is on Zoom.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Lori.
Thank you. So councilors, Mayor Ron, my comment actually has to do with this revamped lighting ordinance. And I have a suggestion. I'll just read what my suggestion is, and maybe this will help. If it were to say, when any citizen makes a complaint and the planning and zoning administrator or village designated code enforcement officer then determines that a light fixture violates this section, they will contact the owner, tenant, or person in charge of the premises where the violation has occurred and notify them of the violation in writing. If we just add that at the beginning, that explicitly allows citizens to bring lighting violation complaints to our attention, and it doesn't preclude us from noticing violations ourselves.
I think that's exactly what we have now.
Yeah, it's just a little less wordy and confusing. That's my opinion.
Okay, thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
Do I have a comment or suggestion or a motion from anybody on the council?
We already have a motion to approve, so.
Yeah, I know, but this could be an amendment.
Yeah.
Or we could just vote.
Discussion.
I don't think there was ever a second.
Say again?
I don't think there was ever a second.
There was, Counselor Burkett made the
Yes, there
motion,
was
Counselor Knight seconded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Counselor Knight made the second, I think, didn't you?
Right.
Correct.
Call the vote.
Okay. We want to vote?
Sure.
How do you vote, Counselor Muir?
And the vote is just
we'll be voting.
Public
To-
post.
The vote is to publish and post. So if you
And then-
turn it down, it will not
We'll
be
know that it
published.
doesn't get published or posted.
Correct.
No.
Counselor Woolman?
No.
Counselor Knight?
No.
Counselor Alsobrook?
No.
Counselor Burkett?
No.
Counselor Murray?
Unanimous, no.
So I guess it's not going to be published and posted. Okay, let's move on. Let's see, the next thing is consideration action approval of resolution 24-74 authorizing the assignment of authorized officers and agents for project That's the sign for project SAP 24 12449 GF, and that's $100,000 for a fire suppression line.
Correct.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Any comments, discussions, questions? I got that right, didn't I, Chief? That is a line for a fire suppression line. I mean, that's a legislative grant for a fire suppression line. Yes, sir.
One question for the chief. So with the monies we have in hand, can the chief already start running a line without hooking up to a tank or anything like that? Can we run the line down the road to not hook up it to anything, but have it in place? And then when the money comes in for the tank and the well, it gets
The answer to
done?
that question is probably yes, but I'm gonna let him speak to it because he's got a very nice plan that I happened to run across and talk to Steve Groman about. And but let him answer that.
Mayor, council, so we're currently in the process of seeing if we can do that, because we have legislative money that we have to spend in a timely manner, and we don't want to see that go away.
Right.
As you know, we want to build a 500,000 gallon water tank on top of Angel. Deputy Chief Latin has submitted a grant through our fire protection fund. That should be reviewed in the next month, so we're hoping that maybe if we are awarded the grant, that'll help us build the tank, but we're working on the process of trying to build the pipe on a reversal, I call it. So from Loma Larga, where I already have water and fire suppression line, working our way up to the tank.
Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking, if we already started, maybe we demonstrate to these folks that we're serious about putting that tank up on top of the hill. And if this line's already in place, maybe they'd grease the skids somewhat.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir, Councilman.
quick question, if I may, on that subject.
Yes.
Where was that, could it put us with regards to the spending of the money? That was gonna be my question. You brought it up briefly. We want to spend it before it gets to it. Old money, new money, where are we gonna be at after this spending of this money? With regards to how much we have left, how much we're, last year's money.
Mayor, Councilor, I don't have those figures in front of me. I could tell you I'm trying to spend it all. So I can give you a rundown of the current projects that are in place right now, if you like.
Not necessarily. I think the time is late. I was just concerned, not concerned. I was just curious as to whether or not we're gonna be able to spend all that money.
So
prior to the
I'm
legislative
actively
session.
working on it. So
because on page 20, you have a list of your capital outlay. Would it be in there?
It's in my status report, it's kind of broken down. So right now, currently, we are in the process of finishing up the Academy Road fire suppression line. By the way, we have 2 fire hydrants at Academy that are fully functional as of last week. So the first ever on the commercial buildings. They have 1 more about 200 feet to run, a 12-inch main and another hydrant. When they're done with that, we're looking at starting on Perea Road off of Corrales Road to run a hydrant all the way to the ditch to help those homes back on North Felice Perea, Laura Lane, all those homes back there where we have long, narrow drives and roadways. We're waiting on proceeding with the interior drain project. We have priced out from the back of the elementary school going north down the interior drain, Andrews interior drain, to Dixon all the way to the Bosque, and I'm already actively seeking locations and talking to the property owners on Dixon. So I think that's going to consume most of that money that I have as far as trying to get water to the Bosque this year.
We don't have to worry about 23 money or 24 money. You're gonna spend it all probably.
Pretty much.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, unless I get
Very
additional
hard at
grants.
It is hard to do that because I was notorious for coming in late. I come in, I
It's
needed
a
an
problem
extension.
we enjoy.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Who was next? Also Brooke or Burkett?
I don't have anything. I was stretching. Sorry. So you're
Not
first.
Counselor Knight. Do you have a question?
Were you switching to?
No. No, just a quick question for, it mentions 1% if applicable of the allocation for art in public places. Is that applicable here?
I believe we have to, we have to do something.
I
Yeah.
think it would have said in
we
the
just
grant
tag the
agreement,
tank?
though.
Yeah.
Future
It-
run.
Normally, it'll say in the grant agreement if art in public places, so it'll have an amount for the project, and then it'll have a separate amount for art in public places. And this one does not have a separate amount, so I don't think we have to go with that.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you. Counselor Knight.
So, the fire hydrants on Loma Larga, they're up to West Ella. When do you plan on going further south then with those?
That is not slated and with the current money we have. If we get additional money, we want to continue going south as far as we can. So we're south of Ella right now to Sandia Road,
Sandia
but we're
View.
really, yeah.
So-
Everything's in place for that. We have right of way, we have easements, we have a license agreement with the Middle Road Grant Conservancy. It's a shovel-ready project.
So why isn't that getting any money? Or any, because it seems like you would want to finish Loma Larga before you started, doing other streets.
Well, it's,
Yeah, so
go ahead.
okay, so when we look at towards the Bosque, we've been working really hard with the Corrales Elementary School. We're trying to make a connection to the Corrales fire suppression system to help protect their fire suppression because of their pumps. We invested money into putting a hydrant on the back of the elementary school to cover the interior drain on areas that do not have any fire suppression. So trying to prioritize the east side now. I focused a lot on the west. I'm trying to,
Right, but I'm just saying, it stopped at Sandia View and it needs to, the thing that I was gonna ask, is there something maybe in the plans later on that if some kind of a septic go through Loma Larga, that's why you're holding off?
No.
Completing that, or it's just that?
no, we just stopped. That funding got me to Ella underneath the ditch. And a little bit of funding got me all the way to Sandia. Then that project was over. And then I focused on getting the water to the commercial area, which I've been focusing on at Academy.
When we get more money, we'll go far.
West Siders that, we
No.
still need fire suppression.
When we
I'm
get-
not, so Mr. Mayor, Counselor, I'm not picking like sides. I'm looking at all of Corrales. I'm looking at where I have locations on tanks, my pumping capacity, how much pipe I have out. A big part of that Loma Larga project is Angel Hill, that water tank with gravity coming down with 500,000 gallons of water.
Right, but then it would stop at Sandia View and there's still lots of roads going south, just to, I have to stick up for my area. so-
Absolutely. And that project is slated to go all the way south to Cabazon. That's where my license agreement is. Tomorrow I have a discussion with MRGCD. We're looking at a bridge crossing.
Right,
I've already talked to the landowner. She was present tonight at the council meeting, trying to secure right of ways and easements for that. So that's my goal. But it's not slated this year as far as a project.
okay, don't forget us.
I haven't forgot you.
Okay, all righty.
Counselor Murray?
Yeah, I just want to say in support of the fire chief, I think that the interconnection of all the tanks is really what's going to benefit the village. And that's what he's aiming for, is tie all our storage tanks together so that we have fire protection and fire suppression across the village. And he'll get to Loma Larga because I've asked him about that before. And I have faith that it's going to be done. But the advantage he has now is on the south side, he does have city water he can get to. So it doesn't help us on the west side all that much. I mean, what you're saying is true, but I have faith that the chief will get there when he gets money and availability.
Well, the focus,
You too, Anthony, you know that. I'm just saying, I have to bring it up because I'm hearing all these other areas being taken care of. And again, there's still places on South Loma Larga.
And all due respect, Counselor, I'm getting the pressure from all the other citizens
Yeah.
going, when am I going to get a hydrant next to my house? So it's a lot of pressure now. In the beginning, it was 1 or 2 hydrants. Now they're starting to see them everywhere and they're benefiting from the insurance deduction. They're feeling confident that they have fire suppression, they have water. And so that is the big question, is when are we going to get the whole village covered? And I'm doing my best to try to come across, where we have village right away, wherever I could put a hydrant, with village property, MRGCD property. We ran into some issues on private property. We found an avenue where we're negotiating with the private property owner. The attorneys have reviewed an agreement and we just last week filed our first agreement with a private property owner to place a hydrant on private property so we can maintenance it. So we're moving along. I mean, we're going as fast as we possibly can.
So I don't know if you recall, but the focus a couple of years ago, at least a couple of years ago was the Bosque. We were very concerned with all the fires that were along the Rio Grande and north of us of the fires, and we have no water down there. And so our primary focus was trying to figure out a way to get water to the Bosque so we would have some way to challenge a fire besides a modern day bucket brigade. And so that's probably more my fault, trying to focus on that because I was concerned that should the Bosque catch fire, I mean, this village could disappear. And so that's perhaps why the west side is maybe a little behind because they didn't appear to be as critical. And so you have to balance, what you think is the big benefit versus what might be a benefit, but not as urgent. And so now, I mean, he turned out, we should probably have that video where we can show you spraying the water there at the academy.
Yeah.
That was good to see.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mayor. Mayor's referencing a video that, again, I'm super proud that we have 2 fire hydrants on a very critical spot in the Corrales and the Academy Road. We have 2 schools. We have 3 large commercial buildings that have had no fire suppression water. The only thing we could do there was tanker shuttle or draft out of a ditch. Obviously, the ditches are dry. And tanker shuttling for those. So we're very proud of that accomplishment. So.
Yes, sir. Councilor Burkett.
And maybe the first time effort, me ever trying to keep us on task. I think we're just supposed to be talking about some signers for something. And I think this is a very important conversation, but I think should be its own dedicated conversation.
Yeah.
Right now, we're assigning 2 signers for a grant. And we're talking about the future of fire protection in the village.
Okay. How do you vote, Councilor Mira?
Yes, sir.
Councilor Wellman?
Aye.
Councilor Knight?
Aye.
Councilor Alsobrook?
Aye.
Councilor Burkett?
Aye.
Councilor Murray?
Yes.
Councilor Burkett, thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I've got, yeah.
Okay, now we're going to move on to number 7, consideration action approval of resolution 24-75, approval to enter into a grant agreement with NMDOT for capital appropriation control number C multiple numbers. This is actually to plan, design, and construct the West Meadowlark and will be tied in with the money that we have existing, which is like 130,000, something like that. So we're looking at somewhere in the range of close to $800,000 to finish this project, which you talked about, Ron talked about earlier. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
And a second. Okay, so we have a motion to approve in a second. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, sir, Councilor
All
Murray.
right. So my concern is, are we getting back into a similar situation depending on who we hire as a contractor? That if we have a discrepancy in the documentation, we're going to get into trouble with the state highway department again?
No. That's not going to happen.
How can you guarantee that?
Who we hire and the agreement we have.
Well, okay. Well, anyway,
Probably going to be Albuquerque Asphalt.
Well, but are we putting this out to bid or are we just going with a straight?
I believe
full
we're able
force?
to, use them because they're certified. And
They're on call.
Yeah.
They're
So
They are our on-call paving contractor. We did an RFP. They were the winner of the RFP.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we don't get in the same situation.
we're not going to do that.
This isn't federal money. That the issues that we ran into before were because it was federal money and this is state money and it doesn't have the same.
You don't think the state would complain?
There's no rules in New Mexico.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay. How do you vote, Councilor Murray?
Yes.
Councilor Burkett?
Yes.
Councilor Alsobrook?
Aye.
Councilor Knight?
Aye.
Councilor Woolman?
Aye.
And Councilor Miera?
Yes, sir, only because Ron Curry is going to be second command and item number 4. I could move to scratch that, but I think we'll keep it in there. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, you're welcome. Yeah, he'll keep me out of trouble, right?
We're hoping.
We're hoping. Yes, I'm hoping also. Okay, so now I need a motion for us to go into closed session.
So moved. Don't know why.
And this, well, let me finish it. Pursuant to NMSA 1978, Section 10-15-1H8, the village council will convene an executive session to discuss the purchase, acquisition, or disposal of real property or water rights by the public body. And Councilor Miera has made the motion to do that. Do I have a second? And I have a second. Okay, we will then go into executive session.
Do we need to vote?
Oh, do we have to vote? We can't just do it? Okay, how do you vote, Councilor Murray?
Yes.
Councilor Burkett?
Yes.
Councilor Alsabrook? Councilor Knight?
Aye.
Councilor Woolman?
Aye.
And Councilor Miera.
Yes, sir.
The meeting recording will be paused.
I was just in a hurry.
What are we playing, Dan? What are we playing?
Okay. Okay, I need a motion to come out of closed session pursuant to NMSA 1978, Section 10-15-1H8. Village Council has been in closed session to discuss the purchase, acquisition, or disposal of real property or water rights. No action was taken, no votes were taken. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Any comments anybody wants to make? How do you vote, Councilor Murray?
Yes.
Councilor Burkett?
Yes.
Councilor Alsabrook?
Aye.
Councilor Knight?
Aye.
Councilor Woolman?
Aye.
Councilor Miera?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we are out of closed session and announcement of future agenda items. County Commissioner Catherine Brook is going to present the county general bond projects on 10/8. There will be a joint work study session with the P and Z Commission to review draft comprehensive plan, 10:15, 6 p.m. There's been an invitation to join the Farmland Preservation and Agriculture Commission for a walk of conservation easements on October 21st at 9 a.m. You meet at Perea's Restaurants. That's a Monday morning. There will be I have down here a discussion of a noise ordinance. Is that going to be just us or is that going to be a group?
I believe Tessa Davidson's group is going to
Okay.
come that night.
So they'll come and discuss. Are they going to do a presentation? Or are we going
We haven't gotten that far yet. They're still working on their sort of suggestions.
Okay, there's also future of Saucy Park property discussion on the 22nd of October.
Good.
Another announcement is early voting starts 10/8, October 8th in county clerk's office. Do they go from 10 to 6? 10,
No, the early voting at the clerk's office is regular business hours, 8 to 5,
8 to 5.
Monday through Friday.
And then expanded early voting will be here at the community center starting October 19th, and that will be 10 to 6, and it will run until November 2nd. Okay. Now we're going to have that again in the mayor's message.
Yes. And our voting, our ballot drop box will be back open starting October 8th as well. The county had shut down all but 2 at the direction of the county commission. And because I sent in an email and said, hey, why is ours not open? They counted that as a request to open the box. So, but it will only be open from, I believe, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday as well.
So basically when the village is here, when when the village administration is open. Okay.
Yes. But anybody can also drop off absentee ballots at the polling locations as well.
Okay. All right. That completes our business set. Yes, sir, Councilor Murray.
So is my understanding there is a hayride for the interior drain coming up in a week or so?
October 6th. It's a Sunday.
And it starts here?
Yeah, you can park here at the village hall and then walk down to the corner of Andrews and West La Entrada. And then you can either bicycle, you can walk. There will be a tractor giving rides.
This
People
was
will be
the,
riding their
this is
horses.
the thing Tanya was talking about.
Yeah, this is part of the kickoff for the interior drain outreach program to let the community know that this is going on.
Okay.
So
Yes.
if anybody says, I didn't know about it, this is us trying to get that word out.
Operation transparency.
Yes.
Sir. All right.
Just quickly, you think we're gonna hear from Tracy
Oh, yes, next time.
Yeah.
next time? she
Next
comes?
council meeting.
Okay.
Yes.
They accidentally
Yeah.
double booked her.
Yeah. Okay.
Good.
Meeting is adjourned.